82% of homeowners feel locked in with their current property. It's been a bit of a grind so far in 2023, and we all know about the lock-in effect, that there's less homes selling right now than sold last year. This is all, if you're paying any attention to the market, this all should be common knowledge at this point. And when I look at the consumer sentiment and what homeowners and potential buyers are saying, we're seeing that 82% of homeowners feel locked into their current property because of their rate. At the same time, some of them do want to move. They're just concerned about what's the payment look like, financially, how do I pull it off, and what's the long-term outlook. Being locked in a lot of cases makes it seem like people don't want to be there. So when you think about what happened when rates spiked and how we've seen rates stay high up in the sevens for a while, this is something where a lot of experts are predicting we're going to see rates come down at the end of this year and down again in 2024. And I would liken that to a rubber band. Ricky Carruth said this, where the longer rates stay higher, you're just pulling that rubber band back and back and back and back. And there's more tension on it. And there's more pent-up demand. And what's going to happen is when that snaps, there could be a pop bigger than 2020 and 2021 and the first half of 2022. So how are you getting your business ready for it? And I would argue there needs to be a daily commitment to filling your pipeline with people that feel locked in right now. People that want to make a move, and maybe they're dealing with the condition of, I have a 3% rate and I don't want a 7% rate. And what I know is this: we're seeing more people that are in their early 30s, more 33-year-olds specifically in the US than we've ever seen before. Think about what people do when they're in their early 30s. They're getting married, they're having kids, and if they're already in a property, the kids don't get smaller, they get bigger. They start to think about, where can I raise my family for the next 20 years? What's that 20, 25-year property that I'm looking to move to? And when people feel locked in, it tends to mean they don't like their home. And the longer this goes on, for the folks that have real intent and want to buy and sell, they're gonna hate that home more and more every day. I went through this myself during 2020 when we were locked down and couldn't actually move anywhere. We couldn't do anything in Pennsylvania. And we had 2 kids in virtual school and a 3-year-old. And every day was rough. And the longer it went on, the longer we kept thinking, man, we got to get out of here. It's time to make a move. It's time to pull the trigger. So this is real life. And I was in that 30-year-old range. So someone who's 33 today, they're going to be 34 next year, 35 the year after that, which tells me you want to be playing the long game. And the way to win the long game is with long-term nurturing. So what I'd be looking at is how to develop a seller-focused business where you are having a daily intention of, how many potential sellers am I talking to? What activities am I planning to have those conversations? And how can I really work on my listing presentation? That's kind of the skill building phase. And it starts with a plan. How many listings do you want to take this year? How many listings do you want to take next year? Do you have a monthly number? Come up with a number that's going to help you hit your goals. That's step one. And then there's going to be some key elements of having those conversations to move those folks into your funnel, into your nurture plan. So you've got your daily number, you know how many conversations you want to have, how many appointments you want to hit, you've done the business planning. Well, now what you want to do is look at the components of the conversation, because talking to homeowners without real intent is fine. You've got to get no's to get yeses. That's how this business works, right? If you're not looking at the components of the conversation to determine if they're a real prospect or not, you're missing the boat. And that's what we're going to talk about here. So the first one is, and there's going to be 5 of these things. The first one is, where are they planning on moving to if they do decide to sell their home? Because if the seller doesn't have a plan, I got news for you. They're not moving. So you got to determine where they're moving to once they decide to sell. That is number 1. Number 2, what's important to them about making the move? What's their motivation? Same question. But you don't want to ask, hey, Nick, what's your motivation? You're going to sound like a crazy person. Hey, tell me what's important to you about making that move to that 4-bedroom single-family home in XYZ town. That will help you determine what their motivation is, because you need motivated clients you're going to work with. So where's their targeted landing spot? What's the motivation? You got to determine that. 3 is going to be time frame. When would you like to get this move done? When are you thinking? Because there's going to be conditions that come up, like my kid's finishing elementary school, or I'm waiting on a job change to come through, or I've got to make sure that I help my parents get settled, or we're getting married, or whatever, right? So these are all the things you need to determine, ask them what their time frame is, then determine if there's any conditions you need to navigate. Like, I have a 3% rate and I don't want to go to a 7% rate. That's a condition. You've got to determine those conditions and talk through that conversation with them. And lastly, number 5, what do they know about the market and is it right or wrong? Because if they have a misconception about the market, you've got an obligation as a knowledge broker, as a real estate agent, to tell people exactly what's happening and give it to them in a way that's not going to tick them off. It's not going to make them upset, but you're sharing information to help them get better and understand the market better and make the right move for their household with the right information. So when you break it down to those 5 key elements of a conversation, knowing what's going on in the marketplace right now, and you focus on those when you talk to sellers and have a seller-focused business, well then, that's where things are going to get exciting, and you'll determine the real people that are targets to sell this year, next year, 2025, and beyond. Because every piece of listing business requires that kind of nurturing and that kind of conversation.